we're so fortunate to have such a big community of people that we know, even if it's just know by face and met one time. It's almost like this satellite of friendships, and it's really, really cool to be a part of a community like that.
It is. And you know what I've noticed is that if somebody has a room like Gladys Simon does, and we just went live and I
Mhm.
tagged you on the post,
Oh,
so
great.
it should appear on your page. When we have a connection to where we got a lot of support, like in Gladys's room, when
Hmm.
you meet people who have the Gladys Simon connection, we're all there for each other still, even
Hmm.
outside of a room.
Yep. Yep.
Strong
Yep.
bond.
I
Well,
feel like
go ahead.
people want to say that comedians are very competitive, and it is a competitive field, but from my personal experience, I feel like I root for comedians and other comedians root for me. So I don't feel like I'm competing. It's just the community of people just wanting to get ahead and do well.
Yes. And I love it when I hear that from someone like you just said. Like I think each of us individually have enough to worry about competing with our own demons and our own yesterdays.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Facebook, welcome to Comic Spot. This was generated because I like to interview people. I've been doing it my whole life. So this is just what I would do if I met Nicky Sunshine at the bus stop. This is just me being curious, and I love asking questions. So today, like I mentioned, Nicky Sunshine is our special guest. I want you to get to know her. I've never gotten to know her, even though our previous paths have crossed at Comic Strip Live through the Gladys Simon room. And that's why I felt comfortable inviting her. It's just so you know, Nikki, because of the strong bond we have because of Gladys Simon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll introduce you to our special guest, Nicky Sunshine, right now through the intro that she sent me. And it says, and I quote, I wrote a one-woman show called Confessions of a Massage Parlor Madam. I want to see that show, Nikki.
Mm-hmm.
I performed it at the Producers Club in March 2017 to a sold out show, a sold out crowd. I'll be making my reality show debut in 10 episodes of A Question of Love on FYI Network. Air date July 11th, 2017. For 15 years, Nicky Sunshine says she has worked as a role play actor with a security clearance. I have helped to train hundreds of federal employees as far away as Germany. Oh my gosh. As a voiceover artist, I have recorded, she says, numerous commercial spots for companies such as Thierry Mugler, and I could be pronouncing that wrong. Thierry Mugler,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Google, I got that one. Target, Lady Gaga's Born This Way, and more. My spot for the New York Times aired during the 2017 Oscars. I speak fluent Spanish and fluent German, and I don't even speak fluent English. That's me talking about myself. Thank you so much for the beautiful intro to your life. Let's get into the interview. Welcome to Comic Spot, Nicky Sunshine.
Yay. Let's chat.
Yay.
And so
Hi.
and so you said you're wearing a robe today, and I
Yes,
have on a jean jacket with a nightgown underneath. So this
I
is a
dog.
very informal, comfortable chat.
Yes, yes. I love Zoom.
Yeah.
It's a great thing that has come out of something horrible.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's my motto, that you try to turn a negative into a positive. And I feel like that's what a lot of folks have done in this pandemic. So we just have to keep moving forward and do the best that we can do to shine and stay positive.
Yes, absolutely. So you're in the New York area,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And it's been horrible on the East Coast. So,
Yeah, it's been pretty bad. Times Square is still a ghost town in terms of industry. You know, uh, Broadway may not come back until fall of 2021, and think about how many businesses, restaurants, salons, all of that, retail outlets that are so dependent on the performing arts. And it's the same thing with comedy. A lot of comedy clubs and stuff are still not able to operate. I believe Dangerfields is being sold. So it's really a shift in just how we do things, and it's pretty jarring. And to see it up close, it freaked me out. Like, I went to the city, this was probably like in April or May, and to walk around the city and see so many businesses boarded up and so many restaurants abandoned, it was almost like the city was being, gutted from inside out.
Yeah,
And we're still slowly coming back, trying to, but unfortunately, shutdowns are looming. So I don't know what to think.
absolutely. And everybody in America is rooting. I'm making sure that this post goes public. So now it's public. Yes, I come from Portland, Oregon, and I live in Vegas. And
Hmm.
so the shutdown is not that big of it. It's tremendously hard in every city, but
Hmm.
New York is the apple of everyone's eye. It's not just the big apple, it's everybody's apple of everybody's eye.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
everybody's watching New York and
Hmm.
hoping for a comeback for New York because
Yeah.
that's the indication of our country.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What can you say? We need federal money to keep even our transportation systems propped up, and it's just a very uncertain time. But we try not to freak out, and just try to be as productive as you can, really.
Yes. Now, which borough do you actually live in? So when,
Well, I stay in Harlem and Long Island, so I travel between Harlem and Long Island. But I've been in Harlem for probably since about 2011. And before that, I was in Midtown, right in the center of everything. Right, I lived right above the Ed Sullivan Theater.
oh my,
So yeah, I saw tourists and everything. I could look out my window and I saw U2 performing, like right on the awning, right next to my window. I mean, so tourism that's who we are. And so just to see everything come to such a screeching halt, it's really surreal.
yes. I have a connection to Harlem. Um, my parents went through the Holocaust and they came to America, and a lot of the Jewish immigrants would had a section of Harlem
Hmm.
called Jewish Harlem in the
Hmm.
40s. And
Yeah.
my parents stayed there until their sponsors in Portland, Oregon took them in.
Wow. Wow. That's very interesting. I had a next door neighbor growing up. She was actually in Auschwitz and had the numbers on her arm and everything. And when people try to deny what happened, it's sad, because I'm like, no, this is real.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah.
There's been so many atrocities in the world on so many groups of people, you know,
Hmm.
and we have to remember that it just didn't happen to my people. A lot of times we get so isolated or so into our own problems. I only think about my own family's plight, but
Hmm.
there's been so many atrocities in the world. And then you look at America, the atrocities that we've put on people of color.
Yeah, and it's we speak sometimes in the past, but I mean, this is the present tense. This stuff is happening every day. I just reported on a story from my radio station. I didn't really the credits. I should have updated my credits. I have a program on every Saturday from 9 to 12, and on 108 Soul. It's an online station, www.108soul.com. There was a story out of Oregon. I don't know if you heard it, a dispute between an Oregonian and a 19-year-old black boy in the parking lot of a hotel. And the black teen was playing his music loudly, and it was a dispute about it. The man from Oregon went inside his hotel room and came back and shot him. It was a fatal incident. Shot him with a gun. I mean, that's just senseless.
Did he get away with the murder?
No, I believe they arrested him. He's being prosecuted for that.
Well, that'd be interesting to follow that, because
Mm-hmm.
the big dark secret in Portland
Mm-hmm.
that I never let it stay a secret. I would tell everybody is that it is a hugely racist town. And
Mm-hmm.
they people try to keep racism a secret and act like it's better now. It's not better. It's just gone down underground.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we have in Portland, Oregon, we had our own Hurricane Katrina, where in 1938 they had a purposeful flooding of Vanport. If you look up the Vanport flood, Vanport, the distance between Vancouver, Washington, and Portland, Oregon, was purposely flooded to rid themselves of people of color. And like 5,000 people lost their lives on
I've
purpose.
never even heard that story.
Yeah, horrible town. And
Mm.
my dad, he would go down to City Hall and fight for the rights of people who couldn't fight for themselves. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't like seeing my dad come into City Hall to the meetings that they had. But he
Mm-hmm.
would, he'd show up frequently because they've often mistreated people of color in Portland.
Mm-hmm. I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's no shock. I mean, to you, that's no shock because this stuff happens everywhere. Most people close their eyes to it.
Yeah, I'm still processing it because I grew up with all types of people. I didn't live in any type of one community when I went to school. It was everyone together. And so it took a while for me to really understand that, wow, some people are really shut out of opportunities. And even moving, because I'm from Northern Virginia, even moving from the South to the North, what's been staggering for me, and I'm still processing it, is the segregation and the walling off of communities based on socioeconomic background, and especially in Long Island, the redlining. And it's just like, wow, where I'm from, yes, there might have been some of it, but it wasn't as stark as it is up here. And this is supposed to be the North.
Yes. I In the 80s, I worked at Barnett Bank of Florida. And in the 80s, I come from Portland, Oregon, right? And I thought, I'm just going to Florida. It's the same country. Well, I was a banker, and I worked at a bank in Florida, and I was married at the time. And boy, was I surprised when I was told that people of color couldn't even get a loan application
Mm-hmm.
form, let alone a loan.
Yep.
And I was
Yep.
like, wow, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's move away from that problem that
No comedy there.
there is none, other than I refuse to act like it's all been fixed because it hasn't.
Right,
So
right.
not
I
gonna
agree.
not playing that game. So, and some people who aren't people of color are mad at me when I speak up that it still exists. Well, I'm sorry, it still exists. So don't be mad at the messenger.
That's right.
So let's go into your career and your life.
Mhm.
Talk to me about, you say that you lived right in Times Square.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a place called Falls Church, Virginia, and it was a very nice community. And there were a lot of opportunities. As a child, I was very drawn to the performing arts and also languages. And so I was very fortunate to participate in a lot of programs that kind of broadened my horizons and exposed me to things outside of my community. I went to a very reputable high school, had a lot of opportunities to be a leader in that setting, and really just had the opportunity to get a lot of exposure. I won a scholarship to the Folger Shakespeare Library. I was able to do different programs, study abroad to different countries. And then I graduated and I moved to the Midwest, and I attended Northwestern University. And there it was a culture shock. And so for part of my time, I participated in a study abroad. So I went to Europe for a while. And when I was in Europe, I met these music producers and we recorded some albums. They actually produced for Milli Vanilli. And so I did some work with them. And it was just a very, very interesting kind of, I like to say that I'm a little bit of a Renaissance woman. I like to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And for me, the most important thing in life is experiences. Everybody loves, to be established and have money and everything, but I'm really fortunate that I've had so many different experiences with different types of people, really in different places in the world. And so upon graduating um, Northwestern, I had degrees in languages, German studies and international studies. I thought I wanted to work for the State Department, but I said, no, I really want to pursue the performing arts. And so that's when I moved to New York, and it's been pretty much a whirlwind of a ride. Time has gone by so quickly, and I've had so many different experiences and really grown tremendously as a woman and as a performer. I almost feel like New York put me through the fire. And when you go through the fire, you get refined. So, I'm still here. I'm still doing a number of different, a variety of different things, and I'm just fortunate.
And so you had a one-woman show.
Yep. I wrote a one-woman show based on my life. I'm currently writing a book about that period in my life. And, as performers in the city, it can be tough to kind of dedicate to your art and pay your bills. And I kind of stumbled upon this, how you say, underground kind of economic community with working in kind of illicit body rub business, massage business. And so I would go do my comedy, or I would go do my audition, and then I would work at a particular place not too far from Penn Station. And so I started working there, and it was like, wow, this is some fast cash. And it was almost like the lifestyle and the money overtook me. I started my own business, and within a 8 to 10 year period, so many things have happened. So many people that I've met, girls that I've worked with, clients that I've had. I mean, it's really enough characters for a saga or a trilogy. And so, there were negative things that happened, but I really turned a negative into a positive, in that I wrote a show, and I talk about the dangers of prostitution and trafficking, and share some of my personal stories and stories of people that I know, to really encourage young girls to look elsewhere. Really follow your dreams. Don't be scared, and stay focused. And who knows where I would have been if I stayed 100% focused on my performing arts endeavors. People make different choices for different reasons based on who they are and their life experiences. And in the show, I was able to really examine my roots, and to look at maybe some of the dysfunction that led me to make certain choices. And so people really, really connected with that. I've performed the show probably over 24 times now. I've met with the senator's office of Queens to really try to implement some strategies to keep young women and young men in high school safe. And so it's really, the motto for how I live my life as Nicky Sunshine is turning a negative into a positive. So I'm excited. I'm excited for people to read the book, more details that weren't in the show, and hopefully when we open up again, I can perform the show again.
Well, I want to come to New York and visit, and I want to piggyback that with seeing your show.
Definite. I work with a theater. It's a women's theater. It was founded by lesbians 40 years ago. It's called Wow Theater, and they really cater to uh, lesbians, gays, trans community, and also theater actors of color, and really help to kind of curb some of the costs when it comes to production, because it's not cheap and it's not easy to produce something in New York City with the space and the audiences that you need and everything. So they have been a tremendous help to me in supporting me and getting my message out and just being creative as an artist. So I'm very thankful. Shout out to Wow Cafe Theater.
Wonderful.
Hmm.
So let's talk about your comedy, your
Hmm.
straight up per se comedy.
Hmm.
When did you go on stage for the very first time, and how did that happen for you, Nikki? Because everybody has a story.
um, yeah, that was probably around 2005. I really moved to New York City to pursue on stage work, off Broadway, Broadway. But there was an audition for NBC, and I remember it was at the Laugh Factory. And the Laugh Factory was located on like 43rd and 8th at the time. And so I went, and it was really I remember my set, and it was really horrible. I put on a red wig. My whole thing was, I wasn't clear. I didn't understand that, comedy is about you. And so I always thought that I had to be somebody else in the beginning. And so I went on stage with this red wig, and it was just awful. And so after that, I just started going to more open mics. I don't know if you remember Sal's Comedy Hole. I went there. That was down on McDougal in the Village, and gained a little confidence there by winning or part of a competition. And so, with each experience, the fear goes away, and you get a little more bold, and you experiment and this and that. And so really that's what it's been up until this day. Just every audience, confronting different audiences. And I liken audiences to different, I call them dragons. Sometimes you see the same dragon twice. Oh, I know how this audience is going to react. A bunch of drunk people. Oh, it's firefighters, in Long Island. They don't like, jokes that are too liberal. So, I don't want to lose them. And so I've had so many different performing opportunities and performing experiences. It's just really been amazing, just meeting so many different type of people, and having a variety of different experiences. I did helped write a series called D Lemon in the Morning. We had a radio show, and we were able to work with, a lot of prominent comedians before they made it. Charlemagne the God, Phoebe Robinson, Vladimir Camaño, Alana Glazer, all these different opportunities that I've had. And sometimes I say, wow, I really should be making millions. Like, why haven't I, why am I not in Hollywood and doing this and doing that? Well, I understand about the industry. A lot of it is about luck. A lot of it is about who you know. And it's a very complex occupation. And so maybe I might not be a star in somebody else's eyes, but I can really kind of pat myself on the back and say, wow, you have done a lot, and it's not over for you. And that encourages me to keep going, because as a performer, really, and I wish I knew this 20 years ago, and I talk about it in my show, rejection is it's such a gut feeling. To not get an opportunity and feel rejected can really shut you down. But as a performer, that's what makes performers so special, is you get rejected all the time, and it really is a numbers game. You might have to audition for 200 opportunities to get 5, and that's okay. You just have to keep going, and eventually you will get a yes. And so, that's the mindset that you have to have, and it takes a while to learn that.
Yes. Every time I think about all it takes to get a yes, I'm reminded about Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. And he tried 1,000 things to invent until he hit the payroll, the big pay out with the light bulb.
That's an excellent analogy. And guess what? And sometimes, a lot of comedians may or may not have kind of some things in their past or their childhood that can kind of sometimes derail them. They may be on the path for success, but demons like insecurity or drug abuse or alcoholism or, you know, any type of sexual abuse or even a bad relationship can throw them off the trajectory of where they were. So it really is kind of like a spiritual journey. And here lately, I've really been thinking, what happens when you reach the pinnacle of, you know, what it means to be a comedian that's successful? Even when you get up there, it's a very it's not all peace and love and sunshine and flowers. I mean, look at Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle is what any comic almost would want. And he's still having to fight and still having to, you know, really take a stand and put himself out there to for ridicule and everything else. It's not an easy road.
Right. It isn't. You know, a lot of people are so willing to look at the people at the top too. And if they have a set that doesn't strike their fancy, then they'll put out rumors that they're not what they used to be, or they used to be funny, but they're not anymore, or, you know, and no one realizes how hard it is to come up with 5 minutes, let alone an hour show every couple months. Oh my gosh, the
That's
pressure.
another thing. That's another thing that I think about. And I've gotten into very heated debates with other comedians. You know, they want to tear down other artists or, oh, Tyler Perry, he's, you know, his, I don't like his comedy. His comedy's, you know, there's no, it's so low brow and this and that. And I said, hey, he has an audience, number one, that will pay to see what he puts out. And he's very successful. So you may not like him, but somebody likes him and he's creating content. So, I mean, it's very easy to criticize, but the glory goes to the player, not the spectator. If you're in the game, that's what's important.
And stay in the game and don't let anything derail you. If you feel you have a message, you know, like when I first started doing comedy, I started at age 63 with a brain injury.
Wow.
And I did it because my daughter isn't speaking to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I have this baggage that
Mm-hmm.
every once in a while comes back to haunt me, that, well, if my daughter doesn't want to talk to me, who wants to hear my comedy? And I
Mm-hmm.
have to fight through that every day,
Yeah.
that I do have a voice. Maybe she's not interested in my voice because she's being independent right now, but there's still people that need to hear my voice. And what is my voice? And I have a voice separate from being a mother. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to always be a mother to be worthy in the world.
Yeah. And people want to hear that story. People want to hear jokes about that. You know, that's what drama is, isn't it? Isn't it tragedy and also comedy? I mean, this is going back to the Greeks. So, you know, I tend in my comedy, it may be a little racy or a little dark, but I tend to talk about, you know, New York City, people that I've met and experiences that I've had. And sometimes it can get a little borderline painful, but in the end we can all laugh at it. And I feel like if you can laugh at something, you have power over it.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to that point where tragedy and time has made comedy, and you can, you know, like if when I'm speaking about, I know that you probably have this too, that you're talking about things because they used to be painful,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're now able to make them funny. And when you can also not just make them funny, but make people understand your essence, where you
Mm-hmm.
came from,
Mm-hmm.
and get that you're now at a plate, you're not using them as therapy, you've already done your therapy. This is funny because there's been a lot of time. Then they get to know you on such a deep level.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why, you know, people can identify maybe with stars that they've never even met. Because when you can really just come from an honest place about who you are, what you've experienced, where you've been, what you've overcome, I think people are really drawn to that and attracted to that because some people feel so alone and so isolated and sometimes very isolated in their shame or, you know, their guilt about what they've experienced. And so when you can say, you know, hey, it happened to me, so what? It doesn't have to define you. You can keep moving forward. If people can have their judgment and say what they want to say, just be as happy as you can and do what you want in life. I think people need that. They need that permission. They need that encouragement and acceptance.
Exactly. And I know you were mentioning your being involved in, an illicit scenario, and
Right.
and and you have a one woman show, and it probably really empowers young people, and now you're using it for good with a
Mhm.
senator to enlighten and help the sex trade industry.
Yeah.
It,
And,
you know what
you
I
know,
mean? To not help it grow, but to help senators and people in power understand how to handle the situation in a better way.
I have been approached by different kind of lobbying groups that say, "Oh wow, you know, you did sex work. You were a sex worker, and we could really use your voice. And we want to decriminalize prostitution, and we want people to have the freedom to choose what they want to do." And I say, you know what? That's great. If there are women or men out there who they want to support themselves in that manner, that's great, and I don't have any judgment towards them, but that's not necessarily something that I feel that I want to promote. I would prefer a young person explore different options because there's so many things out there. And a lot of people, they don't even choose that. They're either forced into it or they don't know enough about life to realize, do I really want to make this choice? Is this the way that I want to go? Or they may come from a disenfranchised background where, they had to sell their bodies or they had to deal drugs or whatever just to survive. So I don't necessarily follow along with the whole decriminalized movement. And they say, well, in Europe, in Europe, they've decriminalized it in Holland, and you can in Germany and this and that, and it's so much safer. And the numbers show that is really not. There are more women from being trafficked from Nigeria and Eastern Europe, and they're in situations that they really don't want to be in. So I don't really want to be a part of exploitation. I prefer to empower young women and try to really discuss other viable financial options, because really, I made money, but the time that I lost, to me, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it.
Exactly. You know, and the thing is that I'm sure audiences love about you is the raw truth,
Mm,
because I don't care who you are, you can be the Queen of England. She's got some baggage. She's got
mm,
something that she's done that she's not necessarily, that she wished she'd have known better at the time. And when you know better, you can do better. And,
mm-hmm.
like I told you, my family went through the Holocaust. And the way my dad survived as a young boy is by lying, cheating, and stealing. And it became pathological for him to do that.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So he raised me to not know the difference between a truth and a lie. And he'd give me tips on how to steal things. Even up until the time I was in the banking world, he'd get me on the phone and he'd go, "You know how you could rip the bank off?" And I'm like, that's when my eyes opened up. I was in a job that was ethical.
Mm-hmm.
And here was my father, who you should trust,
Mm-hmm.
giving me ways to rip off. And I was like, whoa, I have been raised with some really messed up values.
Yeah, yeah, but your environment kind of shapes you, and that I'm sure he has a very interesting life story. Everything isn't so black and white, and we can't rush to judgment on people's lives so much. It's almost like we have to take them like some type of gym and examine it and turn it from here to there. And I feel like as adults, it's almost our responsibility to kind of do that with our lives, because when you're more self-aware, you can have a better life experience, and when you're more self-aware, you can have better relationships and not hurt others. Because if your father really would have examined, where am I coming from, this and that and the third, he would really know that maybe he shouldn't be encouraging you to do some of those things, because if you follow through with them, you could be in jail, or it would be a dire life consequence to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
when you were talking about pinnacle of success, and
Yeah.
what is it that you'd like to accomplish in your lifetime?
I really am now more focused than ever, and really understand that I really have to get this book written. And I was sharing with a friend. I actually posted something to Facebook a few days ago about my grandmother. And my grandmother, she was such a she was such an interesting woman, filled with a lot of contradictions, but she was really there for me when I was younger and I needed an adult to confide in, because my parents were teenage parents and they had a lot of tension and drama and a whole bunch of different stuff happening with them. And I was really able to connect with my grandmother. And I had posted something on Facebook about missing her because she just died in September. And so it
Sorry.
and it, thank you. And so it kind of got me writing again. But I'd stopped when the pandemic happened, and even a little bit before the pandemic. I had such a block and I felt so horrible. I'm like, I'm a comedian. I should be writing. I need to be more creative. And I realized what happened with me was I was so concerned about exposing other people in my memoir. Like, oh, if I say this, they're going to be mad at me, or I shouldn't out certain secrets like that. But, that kind of shut me down in a way. And so I feel like, you know what? I'm going to tell my truth, and I'm not going to edit myself. And then when it's all said and done, when I put the pieces together, then, I'll look then and see, maybe I don't want to say quite that much or whatever. But I think people want what's real. People want what's real life. And it's not only my story that I'm sharing, but different snippets from so many lives that I've encountered. I had a client, and he was from Hungary. And we used to call him Shit on Me Steve, because he would come and he'd, oh, will you shit on me? Will you shit on me? We say, Steve, we don't do that here. We do massage. If you want a sensual experience, that's fine, but we are not going to do that. And he would, he had this thing in his mind, and he had a really bad stutter. He had a bad gambling problem, and was coming to see us for a while. And then at one point he revealed why he stuttered. And he was from Hungary, and when he was young, his parents died, and so he went to live with a relative, I think his aunt, in Staten Island, and she was very abusive. She would beat him in his head, and she would, treat him very badly. And so that was kind of like a fantasy that he had, that he wanted to be treated badly. He wanted all these different, really kind of weird things done to him. But it was just so interesting to hear like his backstory, and to know that he really was hurting as a child, to experience this type of abuse, and that's just one sliver of just one. I mean, I met so many different people, men and women, and even some of the stories that of women that I've worked with, women that were didn't have papers to get a real job, and were trying to support families, and dealing with partners that were abusive, or dealing with their own mental health issues. And so I really feel like I have so much to say, and it will be interesting for me to reflect on where I've been, and who the people that I've met, and also my own personal growth. Um, you know, just with my own childhood and reconciling some of those things. I'm really wanting to share this story. There's so much to tell. I just feel like, whoa, how am I gonna organize this? So that right now, if I can do that, I feel like I really, really would be proud of myself if I can just get through and write and organize this work. Then I can think about what's next. But right now it's just this book.
Super focused on the book.
Hmm.
Is the title of the book the same as the title of your one woman show?
For now it is, yeah. For now it is. I think it's intriguing. People, it's a little kind of alluring. Oh, confessions. What are you confessing? Did you do something naughty? It kind of draws people in. And, I have to embrace the fact I was a massage parlor madam. That's what I did. I owned a business, and, people worked for me, and good things happened, bad things happened. And, I have to embrace my truth. I can't, when you can kind of accept and discuss some of the things that you might not be so proud about, or you might even cause you a little shame. I feel like it's empowering, because other people can't say things to hurt you. I'm telling you who I am and what I did. One time, this guy, and I see him on Instagram. He worked for a comedy club in Times Square, and he was a friend of mine, and he knew about my business. And I remember I was in Times Square, and he had a bunch of his friends around, and it was something that I did or said that he didn't like. And he said, "Who cares, you filthy prostitute?" And I thought to myself, wow, you would scream that out at me in the middle of Times Square to try to shame me or make me feel less than. I'm not going to give you that power. I'm not going to give you that power to define me. I know what I've done, and I know who I am and who I was raised to be. And it's not that. So, to hell with that. So, I feel like when you can define yourself, people can't tell you, people can't manipulate you. People can't manipulate you. So,
Yes. I have things in my past, and like I was mentioning, Queen Elizabeth. I mean, I didn't know the difference between a truth and a lie, or somebody else's possessions and mine, for a good 10, 12 years of my life. There was no boundary
mhm,
between what somebody owned and what something I wanted. I wasn't raised that way. And, when I tell people on stage that I was raised to lie, cheat, and steal, you can see them buckling up, like, how dare you talk about, or I went through a huge shoplifting phase. I
mhm,
did. And I was really good at it,
mhm,
and I was a really good liar. Oh my gosh, nobody knew when I was lying, you know.
mhm,
I'm not proud of it. And I've turned my back on that era of my life, but it's a truth about me. And it,
mhm.
it, it shocks people at first, but there's a lot of funny that can come out of it because you are different and you are willing to talk about a truth about you. So it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
different.
That's definitely a different life experience. And I remember when I was younger, I would say, I want to meet everybody in the world. I want to know their story, and I want to have a boyfriend from each country in the world, just because I'm curious about how other people live and how other people think. And I think that's what draws me to performing arts, because it's really stories about people. I really love people. That's why I moved to New York City. All these different characters and people and this and that. So I really feel like, in terms of my life trajectory, I started out wanting to kind of pursue acting and really liking the performing arts, but I got way more than I bargained for. What I got was a life. A
Yeah.
life. So I'm just excited to see what's next. And I'm married now, so that's been a tremendous help in grounding me and having a partner that supports me and supports my vision for my career, and knowing what comedy is about and what it takes. And it's just really been amazing. Some people say, oh no, comics are so dysfunctional, and if you marry a comic, you're both going to be like, it's going to end up in a big crash and this and that. And it's like, well, so far, I mean, it's been a pretty good ride. Some people say you can't find love in the club, but I did at New York Comedy Club, and it's just been really such a blessing. And we've been able to do together a lot of things. Jamie also was in that project. FYI network, A Question of Love, with me. And, we were kind of able to create some on camera, comedy between us. And people really like to see couples together having fun and making jokes and kind of making fun of each other and really examining some of the harder issues in a relationship, because it's like so serious, finances in a relationship, and if somebody cheats and this and that, and kind of it's fun to explore those topics with your partner and try to get comedy out of it. And we have a Instagram, Married and Funny, and we put out different videos on that, and hopefully we can keep kind of doing that, because I think a lot of people, they want to be in relationships. They like to see relationships and they want to laugh about stuff. So it's just something different to give an audience than just
I
Nicky
just
Sunshine.
clicked to follow you on Married and Funny on Instagram.
Yep, and Married and Funny. I also work with a woman, she's a comedian named Danielle Carrington, and we've done a lot of funny content with a show called Let's Get Greedy. And so what we do is we go to different places and sample food and do funny food reviews. And we have a really kind of cool on camera vibe. And we've been doing these videos for about 4 years, and finally now starting to gain some real traction on YouTube and things like that. So
what's the name of it? What's the name of that on YouTube, Nikki?
It's called Let's Get Greedy.
Okay.
Let's Get Greedy. So that's been a lot of fun working with her. And we also do some parodies with that too. We did a few parodies of those ladies, Diamond and Silk. They're like really at the top of the food chain and kind of the Republican Party and promoting Trump. And so we've kind of mimicked them and done some videos. They're called Diamond and Silk. We're called Satin and Pearl. So we make fun of them, and it's been fun. It's been really a lot of fun.
Remind me of the name of your radio show. Is that?
Oh yes. It's called it's 108 Soul. And you can say, "Hey Alexa, play 108 Soul," or you can go to our website, www.108soul.com, and it's been a wildly successful. It's a station that was just established in May, and the amount of listeners that we, all over the world, really, that we've gained. It's a radio station for R&B and classic hip hop. So we play a lot of, tunes from the 70s, the 80s, and 90s, maybe things that wouldn't be on rotation on a lot of radio stations now. But people really love the music. We do a lot of on-air mixes. I like to sprinkle news stories. I'm like one of the only personalities that does, like kind of, funny commentary. Oh, Scottie Pippen's wife, she's home wrecking again, or, news about what's happening with the vaccine. And so I really enjoy doing that, mixing it up with the music, because I do voiceover work. So that's pretty much what I do during the weekday. A lot now that the comedy clubs are closed, I audition for different voiceover projects, and I worked on a number of political ads during the campaign, different audiobooks, different things like that. So I really love running my mouth.
Well, I look forward to coming back to New York when it's safe to really travel. And I will definitely want to get your book and see your one-woman show, Confessions of a
Massage Parlor Madam.
Thank you. I got enough problems remembering my own jokes. I don't want to quote you incorrectly.
I understand.
Thank you so much for this wonderful time to get to know you. And I'm so glad that my people will get to know you. And I hope everybody on here follows Nicky Sunshine. Where do you want followers?
You can follow me on Instagram. It's Nicky, Nicky Sunshine. you can follow me there. And then if you want to go to Married and Funny, you can do that. But I put a lot of all my projects on that Nicky Sunshine page. So, follow me there so you can keep up with me and see what I'm working on next.
Got
There's
it.
some surprises. There's some surprises coming up. Even you are going to be surprised, Linda.
Oh,
Just
cool. I
give it.
can't wait.
Yep, it's a major announcement coming, probably maybe in about a month or so.
Oh, wonderful.
Uh-huh.
I'll be looking for it.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much. And I hate to say goodbye. I usually do it 5 or 6 times. And I miss you already, and I haven't said goodbye once yet.
Well, my grandmother always said, it's never goodbye, it's see you later.
Yes, that
It's
warms
see you
my
later.
heart.
Uh-huh.
Thank
We'll
you
see
so
you
much.
later.
Say hello to your wonderful comedian husband, Jamie Roberts.
I will indeed.
Nicky Sunshine, you guys. Thank you again.
Bye.